Today we're changing the front brakes on this 2013 Honda Pilot. The only issue that we have is when we're at speed 60, 65 and we apply the brakes, there's a shimmy in the wheel. My assumption is that it's going to be the rotors are warped. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to get the car jacked up. Alright, so obviously we have the wheel off and we are going to get the caliper off. So I'm going to remove these 17mm bolts right back here. Like I mentioned early in the video, we do know that these pads were replaced by the previous owner fairly recently, so there's not a whole lot we need to do on compressing this caliper. So hopefully we can see. I should have done this before I pulled these bolts out, but I think right there we're in good shape. There. So what I did there is compress the pistons on the inside of the caliper that pushes and squeezes the brake pads against the rotor. So at this point I'm going to remove the caliper. I'm going to utilize a hanger specifically made for this. You can see the hardware, just a couple little clips here. Got two of them, just the same. Alright, so at this point, these pads are free and we should be able to take them out with no problem. There goes that one, and there's this one. And like I said, there's plenty of meat left on the bone here. However, if we feel the edges, there's definitely an edge right here, and there's some grooves in these rotors. So we have a 17mm on the caliper, and then on the caliper bracket we are, I believe, a 19mm. Okay, so now that we have removed the caliper bracket, it is time to remove the rotor. And this is something that has been common with Hondas for some reason, and that is trying to remove these Phillips screws from the rotor. So I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of luck with just using a regular screwdriver or even putting an impact with a screwdriver bit on it. So something I will have a link in the description for is an impact driver. And what we're going to do is put this right here, and we are going to be turning to the left. Like I said, it's an impact driver. And let's just give you an example of what happens if you try to use a screwdriver. Alright, so the first example, I only have a number 2 screwdriver with a hand screwdriver. It fits really decent, but we can't turn it. So we have a number 3 on an impact, thinking, yeah, well, it's going to fit really good, which it does, but that's not getting us anywhere. So unfortunately, that leaves us to this impact driver and a 4-pound sledgehammer. So I'm just going to set this right here. I'll try to zoom in so you can see what's going on. You've seen some movement there. We're going to do the same thing on this one. Oh, maybe someone's been here. The other side didn't go so well. So now we have an impact with the number 3 ready to go. And there we go. Remove. Remove. Here I've got the rotor off. This is on the front, and I don't know if you can see how much it's grooved, and there's also a nice lip right here. It's definitely time to replace these. So here is the Power Stop Evolution, and this is coated to help with rust prevention. One thing that I thought was kind of cool is here there's a marking showing that it is for the front, and then I opened it up and it looks pretty fancy. So I'm going to get this out of the package and see what we got going on here. Alright, so at first glance this looked white, and in the camera it looks white too, but as we kind of turn it, it looks like it was gray. But anyway, I definitely believe there's a coating there, and it does not appear that we need to use brake cleaner to clean it off. You know, a lot of times these rotors, or not these rotors, but a lot of times rotors will come with grease on it so they don't rust in shipping. I'm going to go ahead and open up this Power Stop Evolution brake, the brake pads. Oh, here's my Rock Auto sticker. There's my Rock Auto magnet. Alright, so this is pretty cool. It comes with some grease. We got the hardware. And we have the ceramic brake pads. So this looks like a pair. We got one with a squealer on it, and then the outer one. So just real quick, these are typically on the inside, and these are typically toward the outside of the vehicle. And just match them up. Looks like we're going to be good there. So I'm going to go ahead and get these installed. I'm going to use the grease, and we're just going to put some grease right here and here on both pads, and probably also where the pistons push onto the pads, just to keep noise, just to reduce noise. So that's what we're going to do now. Replace. So actually at this point I want to show you, we obviously took those screws out, and we want to make sure we put them back. So you can see, alright, so here you can see the screw is real close to the lug, and right now this doesn't make any sense. So I think if we turn it like this, if you can see here, we have a screw hole here. It's probably hard to see. But anyway, we're going to line up the screw holes that will locate close to these lug nuts. So just make sure you pay attention to that as you put it back together. So now that we're putting the rotor on, we're going to be real careful. Make sure that these screws start nice and easy. And if you do this, do not run this on 100%, just a little turn, just make sure it's going to go in. If you run it full force, you may start stripping it, and it's going to be a bad evening for you. But if it goes easy, you know it's started. Alright, so we're good with getting the rotor on, and now it is time to get the caliper bracket back on. And here we have a bracket at the bottom, a bracket at the top, and here we have new brackets that come with the kit. So the easiest way to put these on is make sure this inside lip, this inside lip here, fits snug up against this side, and same here. Alright, so the hardware is mounted on the top and the bottom of this side. We're going to go ahead and get this mounted. Torque specs are in the description below. So at this point we do have the caliper bracket bolted in. We've got the rotor in. Now it's time to put the caliper in place. So we're gonna go ahead and lube up a couple things before we get going there. One thing I will be using is this CRC brake grease, and I'm gonna put it on the pistons that actually push up against the brake pad. We're going to go ahead and put in these brake pads that go toward the inside, and we know that because there's this little brake indicator, or what I like to call a squealer. So we're going to go ahead and put a little lubrication on these pieces that will be sliding back and forth. Alright, so these go toward the inside. So at this point you can see we've got the brake pads back in place, and all we need to do is put the caliper in place. So now it's time to put these in place. They go right here. Okay, so now we can put the caliper in place. Alright, we have the new pads and rotors in place. It's time to go ahead and put the wheel on, and we will take a little drive and see how everything feels. Alright, so here you can see we have changed out the brake pads and the rotors on this 2013 Honda Pilot. And I will put the torque specs in the description below regarding the caliper bracket, the caliper itself to the bracket. So in the next video I will post the rear brake pads and rotors. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.